Perhaps the most extraordinary thing about the tragedy now taking place in Iraq is that after all that's happened, Saddam is still there. In an apartment block in a suburb of Tehran, an Iraqi Shia exile is waging his own war against the regime. Taya Haidari felt driven to gather together the record of their human rights abuses. So Saddam's version of history does not triumph.
All the different regions of Iraq and the things that have happened here. Do you have any maps of the draining of the marshes?
Since then, he's collected letters, orders, tapes, maps, communiques, eyewitnesses, in the hope that one day an international court will convict Saddam of crimes against humanity.
This is Amara. These are the tributaries of the Tigris, which fed the water into the center of the marshes. And this is the barrier which has been made by the Iraqi government to drain the water away from the marshes, so this area will be left dry.
These are the Iraqi government's own engineering specifications for the draining of the marshes. They're entitled the third Anfal.
So this is the actual government plan that was captured in October '92 from the Iraqi engineer. Amazing, amazing.
These are blueprints for the destruction of Eden. From a satellite 500 miles up, here are the marshes 20 years ago, a green filigree of reed beds and islands. And here's the latest image from this spring, the central marshes all but gone, brown fingers spreading everywhere like a disease, the huge cut of the main drain scarring the earth. Upstairs, Thaya's archives are only more painful. Books of the dead compiled in the hope their deaths will not be forgotten.
So these are all people who've been killed by the regime. They're mainly Shia people.
And in other books, Sunni. Shia and Sunni, Arab and Kurd, Christian and Jew, Turkoman, Assyrian, Yazidi. Ba'athist rule makes no distinction in its cruelty.
So these are all people who've come into Iran, and you've interviewed these here in the centre, for people who've been tortured, who've been in hospital and all that, yeah. Oh, these are the victims of the chemical attacks at Halabja. I see. These are all people who survived and who have been seen in hospital.
هؤلاء المصابين في مدينة حلبجة الذين جاءوا إلى إيران واستشهدوا في مستشفيات إيران نتيجة إصابتهم بالأسلحة الكيميائية.
These are people again who've died from chemical attacks. God, there must be hundreds of people here.
That these people suffered or died from chemicals sold to Saddam by Western companies only adds to our shame. This is what tyranny means. It destroys people, it destroys the most precious links in the chain of life, the very things that make us human. Travel anywhere in the Near East, and they'll tell you one thing about the Iraqi tragedy. They'll tell you it's not just the fault of the Iraqi people, or the Arabs as a whole, or Islam, as some Western pundits still try to tell us. They say there's a connection between Western power and the cruelties of Saddam.
Saddam was really our Frankenstein's monster. We set him up, we created him, and in the end we had to take him down because he had become too powerful. All this because of the greed of Western companies and the lack of strategic awareness of Western governments. Saddam Hussein had held out the carrot, if you wish, of multi-billion-dollar contracts. Everybody wanted to get a piece of the cake. There were literally hundreds of suppliers, hundreds of companies in West Germany, in France, in Britain, even in the United States, in Italy, supplying him with dual-use technologies, manufacturing equipment, entire weapons factories.
So what's been going on since the Gulf War?
Since the Gulf War, at the subcommittee here in the House Foreign Affairs Committee, our investigation has shown that the Iraqis have succeeded in rebuilding 80% of their weapons manufacturing capability. We know, for instance, that in Germany, 150 companies today are under investigation by German customs for having broken the sanctions, and the kind of sanctions violation really is delivering spare parts for machine tools, electronics, things like that. We're not talking about food and medicines. We are talking about industrial machinery. Saddam could not exist without a vast army. He will turn his army against the southern marshes. He will destroy the people who are living there if he can. He will destroy the Kurds in the north if he can, and if we don't stop him.
Bill Clinton's State Department declined to answer questions on their policy towards Iraq. But off the record, they admit it's a day-to-day affair. If there were a coup in Baghdad tomorrow, they have no contingency plan. So over 2 years after Desert Storm, they have still not worked out their endgame. In London, the British government is also going through self-examination over Iraq, albeit unwillingly. The Iraq Gate hearings have already revealed that they relaxed the guidelines on arms sales to Iraq after the chemical massacres of the Kurds were public knowledge. This information was not released, said a witness, because the minister concerned, now Lord Howe, thought such a shift might appear cynical after Halabja. Then Foreign Office Minister William Waldegrave continued this policy of selling to Saddam. The hearings have revealed that British arms got to Iraq through Jordan even after Saddam invaded Kuwait.